Formula One YouTube love a prediction at the start of the season. Drivers' Championship, Constructors' Championship, Drivers' Market, you name it, there's a prediction video out there for it. But with 2 races left to go in the season, both championships sewn up in the hands of Red Bull and Max Verstappen, there's still a lot to be excited about. And people are giving up on this season. There's still a lot of jeopardy up and down the grid. So I've made 5 bold predictions for the end of the 2022 season, which I know I will be slated for in the comments. So if you even think about leaving a comment, you best make sure that you put a bold prediction down there as well. Let's rattle them off then, 1 through 5. Starting off with prediction number 1, and I've gone big, I've gone bold, I've gone Lewis Hamilton will win a Grand Prix in 2022 and will finish above George Russell in the Drivers' Championship. Lewis Hamilton just seems to have come alive in the second half of the season. Now that Mercedes have stopped tinkering with his car every other session, he looks like he's finally settled into the 2022 regulations and found his feet just in time for the end of the season. Of course, everyone has their eye on that win record. He's picked up a win in every single season in Formula One that he's raced in since he started back in 2007. Just look at this season. He's been on the podium 8 times so far and has knocked on the door of the top step of the podium, but just not quite been able to step up there. Mexico and the USA saw the Britain fall second place to Max Verstappen, but with Brazil coming up next, now being an honorary citizen of the country, a win at Interlagos just seems written in the stars. On top of that, George Russell has just looked a little bit less consistent. Still top 5 worthy outside Singapore and Japan, but he doesn't seem to be on the pace of Lewis Hamilton in the races. So I feel like it could be very, very close between the two and go down to the final race of the year where I could just see Hamilton pip into the post in front of him in the driver's standings. Although I do know that that is a 15-point swing, so it's definitely going to have to be some outstanding performances from Lewis Hamilton if he is going to jump in front of his teammate. Second bold prediction, and I think Ferrari are going to choke their championship position and drop to 3rd behind Mercedes. I just feel like Ferrari have one final blunder in them this season. They have had such bad luck over the course of the year. On top of that, they've made mistakes and the team has looked so inconsistent. Carlos Sainz has 6 DNFs, the most out of anybody on the grid when it comes to races. And Charles Leclerc does have a mistake in him. We just have to look at what happened in France and of course what happened in Japan on the final lap of the Grand Prix when he was put under pressure from Sergio Perez. Plus, as I mentioned, the team have been abysmal. Strategy they've got wrong consistently. Over and over again, they've made the wrong call at the wrong place, and the car just doesn't seem as quick as it used to be. I just feel like Lewis Hamilton is clicking into gear at just the right time of the season, as I touched upon, and Mercedes have been so consistent throughout the year so far. You just have to look at their finishes. They have only finished outside of the points 4 times between both cars over the course of 2022. On top of that, they only have 1 DNF apiece, George Russell not making it to the end of the Silverstone Grand Prix after he crashed into Zhou Guanyu, and Lewis Hamilton not making it to the end of the Belgian Grand Prix because of a collision with Fernando Alonso. Ferrari could easily drop the ball at least one more time over the course of the final 2 races in Brazil and Abu Dhabi, and that could just open the door just enough for Mercedes to sneak enough points to jump into 2nd place in the Constructors. Which in a season where Ferrari was supposed to be title contenders and seemingly had the fastest car until we realised that Max Verstappen was a robot and only had winning in his programming, would be pretty embarrassing for the Italians. Bold prediction number 3, and I think that McLaren will finish above Alpine in 4th place in the Constructors' Championship. You can call me biased all that you want, and I'm well aware that Alpine should finish 4th considering the season that they've had, and as Alonso keeps reminding us, he has been very unlucky. But Lando Norris has been a force of nature this year. He just drags that McLaren to finishes it really does not deserve. He is the only driver outside of the top 6 to have picked up a podium and has the highest average finishing position outside of the top 6 to boot. Like, the Drivers' Championship just doesn't lie. Lando Norris has been absolutely phenomenal. On top of that, McLaren and Ricciardo absolutely killed the strategy in Mexico. So one more performance like that from McLaren. On top of that, one more outstanding drive from Lando Norris. And the reliability of Alpine still looks sketchy. An 8-point swing in 2 races is definitely manageable. Plus, on top of that, it would be great for Daniel Ricciardo, after everything that's happened this season, to end on a high note. He really does deserve it, and he's one of the best characters that we have in Formula One. I am sad to see him go in for the 2023 season, but I think it's right that he comes out of that McLaren car. But he did win a Grand Prix for them, so ending the season, getting them a 4th place in the constructor standings, maybe just one more incredible drive from the Australian, that would be lovely to see. Prediction number 4, and I think this is more out of hope than sense, to be honest with you. I think we're going to have at least one more new podium sitter in the last 2 races of the season. Now, I know that this prediction is a little bit out there, considering what we've seen over the course of the season so far. We've got two Red Bulls who are absolutely phenomenal. Max Verstappen, who just wins every single race that is put in front of him, and a Sergio Perez, who's been very, very consistent, had his up and downs, but has always been kind of that top 5, top 6 zone. We've had two Ferraris that, if they actually finish the Grand Prix, are incredibly quick on their day, and two Mercedes cars that do just finish every single Grand Prix. They're so incredibly consistent, and whenever the Red Bulls or the Ferraris have made mistakes, the Mercedes cars have been there to pick up the pieces. Which is why, outside one Lando Norris performance in Imola, we haven't seen any of the midfield drivers on the podium. Which is a real shame, considering 2021 we had a plethora of different podium sitters, and of course that shock win from Esteban Ocon. Which is why I feel like there's just still one more twist in the tail in 2022. I know that it's probably going to be Max Verstappen that wins the Grand Prix. It's probably going to be one of the other top 6 in second place, but maybe, just maybe, somebody in that midfield pack can sneak a podium. A Valtteri Bottas. Lando Norris again? I don't know if that counts as my prediction. Probably doesn't count as my prediction. Not Lando Norris again. Maybe Daniel Ricciardo, who picks up the pieces. Not an Alpine. Now I've thought about it. Not an Alpine. Just somebody in the midfield pack, or even below, a Pierre Gasly, picks up a podium this season and just ticks us over onto 8 people on the podium rather than the 7 we've got so far. My 5th and final prediction is going to upset some people, and it even upsets myself, really. I think that Sebastian Vettel is probably going to end the season on a little bit of a low note, and maybe even a DNF. Sebastian Vettel is one of the best drivers that the sport has ever seen. He has been absolutely sensational at times over the course of this season as well. You just have to look at even races as soon as Japan and Singapore. He was phenomenal and incredible to watch. But with him leaving at the end of the season, I feel like this building up to a crescendo is just going to end on a little bit of a bum note for Aston Martin. I don't know what it is, because I actually hope that this doesn't happen. I really want to see Sebastian Vettel leave on an absolute high note, even though he's saying that he might end up back in Formula 1 one day. I think he's had the last few races. He's realised that he has still got it in the tank and is maybe just regretting what he said a little bit. And maybe we'll see him come back in 2026 with Audi. I'm just saying that would be incredible to see. If somebody from Audi is listening, maybe you could make that happen. But in terms of 2022, I just feel like a DNF in Abu Dhabi would just be such a sour way to go for Sebastian Vettel, but I can just see it happening. It would be so Formula 1 for something like that to happen. Little side prediction as well. I think Logan Sargent will get into Formula 1 with Williams next season, but I don't think it's going to be easy. I think the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix weekend is going to be topsy-turvy. There's going to be points where he's in, there's going to be points where he's out, and it's going to be very, very close as to whether he actually gets the license points required to be in Formula 1 next year. But that's more of a Formula 2 prediction, so I didn't want to put it in my actual 5 predictions for the final few races. Let me know what you think of my predictions down in the comments below. Have I finally lost the plot thanks to sleep deprivation in 2022? And whilst you're down there, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. We're going to be live for the qualifying, the sprint race, and the race over the course of the Brazilian Grand Prix weekend, and of course the weekend after for the Abu Dhabi final Grand Prix of the 2022 season. I absolutely cannot wait to spend it with you, and I'll see you next time.